Before the world knew their name, before the diamond heists and getaway legends, there was war. The Balkan Peninsula, 1990s. Cities reduced to ash, civilians caught between tanks and rifles. This was not a battleground. It was home. And for some, war didn't end. It simply evolved. He had survived the siege, the betrayal, the silence. With no nation left to serve, no brotherhood to belong to, only the skills of war remained. Kill, escape, disappear. And in a broken country, that made him valuable. These men weren't thieves. They were tacticians. Hardened by combat, shaped by strategy. And now, they would apply their discipline to a new battlefield, one made of velvet and glass. From the rubble, a network emerged. Not just a crew, but an ecosystem. Dealers, forgers, smugglers. Their currency, silence. Their weapon, trust forged in war. And from Belgrade to Beirut, every dark alley knew their scent. Interpol wouldn't know what to call them at first. They weren't centralized. They weren't traceable. But their fingerprints were on $500 million worth of stolen stones. The world was their stage, and they were already mid-act. Each heist rehearsed like a military op. Entry. Disable. Extract. Exit. No phones, no names, no bullets. Unless necessary. Their raids would be fast, clean, poetic. The world wanted a fantasy. The masked gentleman, the diamond rogue, the laugh in the night. But the truth was colder. These were ex-soldiers, hardened men. Not actors in a caper, but veterans turned ghosts. One man agreed to speak, on tape.
We weren't trying to be famous, we were trying to survive with style.
He said. He didn't smile when he said it. Just lit another cigarette. Interpol gave them a name. The Pink Panthers. Not for flair, but for irony. They weren't cats. They were ghosts in suits. And from this silence, a sound the world would never forget. Glass shattering. In 3 minutes, London would become legend. This was just the beginning. London, 2003. In just under 3 minutes, 2 men walked into the Graf Diamond store in Mayfair and walked out with over 23 million pollers in diamonds. They used wigs, suits, prosthetics. They timed the police response. They used decoy vehicles, precise getaway paths, and vanished without firing a shot. But it wasn't just the speed that stunned investigators. It was the detail. One of the diamonds, worth over $500,000, was found later, hidden inside a jar of face cream. Just like in The Return of the Pink Panther, the 1975 film. That was the moment Interpol gave them a name, the Pink Panthers. It wasn't just a label. It was a brand, a ghost signature, a calling card scrawled across Europe's most secure vaults. The press ran with it. Overnight, reality blurred into fiction. The public saw charm, masked elegance, Ocean's 11 flair. But Interpol saw something else. Combat veterans, war-trained tacticians, a decentralized, borderless threat who didn't just vanish into the night. They disappeared between nations. They weren't a gang. They were a network, fluid, decentralized, and untraceable. Interpol would eventually identify over 800 individuals, most hailing from the fragmented nations of the former Yugoslavia, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia, Croatia. Many were ex-soldiers, intelligence officers, or paramilitary operatives, trained in the chaos of the Balkan Wars. But unlike traditional crime syndicates, the Panthers operated without a boss. There was no leader, no official hierarchy. Instead, the group was built like a cellular organism, self-contained units, operating independently, but loosely connected through shared methods, mutual contacts, and invisible coordinators. Investigators would later nickname these shadowy figures: the banker, the ghost, the chemist. Men, and sometimes women, who never touched a vault, but orchestrated it all from a distance. Their movement across borders was seamless. They carried dozens of fake identities, often secured from corrupt officials or forged with military precision. Interpol uncovered a tactic known as identity recycling, one passport used by multiple Panthers over time, each one tweaking a detail: hair color, eye color, birth year, just enough to fool immigration and facial recognition. But some passports were genuine, issued with real stamps, real security codes, sold by those who knew exactly what they were doing. Inside their world, every mission was a military operation. Entry, disable, extract, exit. Each move rehearsed, escape cars pre-positioned, routes timed to the second. In some heists, they used smoke grenades, radio jammers, and even false getaway vehicles. A few operations involved distraction teams, staging fires or robberies across town, just to draw police away from the real hit. They rarely spoke on phones. When they did meet, it was in neutral countries like Switzerland, where surveillance was low and extradition tricky. They used coded language, burner phones, and met face-to-face only when absolutely necessary. This wasn't just about brawn. They recruited safecrackers, forensic cleaners, even high-end sales insiders who slipped them store layouts, security schedules, or VIP event access. Some of their best scouts were women, elegantly dressed, posing as clients, sometimes stealing, sometimes just watching. The loot was never sold in Europe. Diamonds were cleaned, recut, remounted, and moved to Hong Kong, Dubai, and Beirut. There, they disappeared into the underworld, converted into cash, art, or offshore real estate. Even when authorities closed in, the Panthers were gone before names were known. Interpol, Europol, dozens of national forces, all of them chasing shadows across borders that no longer mattered. One investigator described it best: "They're not robbers, they're tacticians, and we're playing catch-up in a game they've already won." In the end, the numbers were staggering. Over 500 documented heists across 35 countries, from the boutiques of Paris to the gold-lined vaults of Dubai. A global symphony of precision theft. Interpol estimates the Pink Panthers stole more than $500 million in jewels, watches, and rare stones. Much of it never recovered. But they didn't just steal valuables. They stole time. They stole control. They turned luxury retail into their personal stage and vanished before the curtain could even rise. One job in Monaco took less than 3 minutes. Another, in London, involved hidden compartments inside a baby stroller. Their fastest confirmed operation? 36 seconds. Their largest single haul? $136 million. Gone in under a minute. Police responded. Interpol launched dedicated task forces. Warrants were issued, borders flagged. But by the time doors were broken down, the Panthers were already moving. Train stations, private runways, cargo routes, slipping across borders with clean clothes, new names, and documents fresher than truth. Some arrests happened. One suspect was caught after crashing a stolen scooter into a taxi, leading to the recovery of $2 million in gems. Another was identified, not by DNA, not by surveillance, but by the stitching on his gloves, traced back to a Serbian leather maker. Trials played out across Europe. Belgrade, Geneva, Paris. Some Panthers were convicted. Many were not. Of the estimated 800 linked operatives, only a fraction ever stood before a judge. The rest? They vanished. Interpol's digital boardrooms lit up with maps, red pins, suspect sketches. They traced burner phones, watched security footage frame by frame. They followed cars to borders, only to find empty seats, burned phones, and silence. Because the Panthers didn't just escape cities, they escaped systems. In public, Interpol called them a networked threat. In private, they said, "We don't know how to stop them." They didn't behave like criminals. They behaved like ghosts, and ghosts don't get caught. A velvet tray, empty. A briefcase snapped shut. A passport tossed into a fire. A diamond spinning slowly in darkness. A jet rising into the dawn sky. The Pink Panthers weren't just thieves. They were mirrors. They reflected a world obsessed with wealth, with elegance, with escape. The perfect heist doesn't just take what's locked away. It leaves something behind. A question. A silence. A story of legends.